The French don't put a lot of emphasis on breakfast in the week. For most, it's just a shot of coffee and they fly out the door. But not on Sundays. That's when they head to the kiosks and buy newspapers, they buy out the bakers, and then head home for a leisurely breakfast of rich, buttery brioche with a soft crumb and a golden crust, spice bread with 4-spice, honey, anise, and orange, homemade apricot preserve bursting with the taste of sunshine, café crème, strong hot coffee with a frothy milky top, and fresh fruit with yogurt, orange zest, and maple almond crunch. You'll be able to wake up to a relaxed French weekend breakfast wherever you are. I used to love breakfast in France, going to get a newspaper and then going to the bakery to buy all kinds of French pastries like pain au chocolat and croissant and chouquette. Now I like to make stuff at home, like brioche, also French, a rich buttery egg bread with a golden top and a melt-in-the-mouth crumb. It starts with yeast, and yeast is the magic ingredient that makes all bread rise. You just mix it in a little warm water or warm milk. Too hot, you'll kill it. Too cold, it will just take a long, long time. And a bit of sugar. Sugar feeds the yeast and makes it grow big and tall. Just stirring it around a little bit to help it start dissolving. I'll just leave that to start working and get my other ingredients together. Flour. In it, you make a well, so you can make a wish. Pinch of salt, and then eggs in the well. Lots and lots of eggs, because this makes the dough very rich. I'm just breaking up my eggs in the well. And now I can add my yeast, which is all puffed up. It has worked. So that's a good sign, a sign of life, and it can go right in on the eggs. Now I'm mixing the eggs and yeast together and slowly drawing the flour in from the sides of the well until it's fully incorporated. This is a very, very sticky dough. That's because of all those eggs. It's very wet, but this is how it's supposed to be. You have to trust it and not add a huge amount more flour, or you'll have a very heavy loaf. Now what you have to do next is beat it and beat it and beat it. It's like kneading, only it's more slapping around because that makes a much lighter dough, and you need that for a good brioche. I'm just turning it in enough flour so that I can work with it. You really need to work it for a long time so it's feather light, otherwise it will be a dense, dense dough. You can see it starts getting more dough-like, and the more you beat it, the more elastic it becomes and smoother. Now you see what a good 20-minute workout can do for your brioche? It's still sticky, still tacky to the touch, that's how it should be, but very soft and smooth and elastic. Now to make brioche dough really rich, it needs butter. And just mix it a piece at a time so it's fully incorporated. And it has to be soft. It should be sort of the same texture as the dough itself, so they come together really easily. Actually, brioche bread is the cake that Marie Antoinette was referring to when she said, "Let them eat cake." She said, "Qu'ils mangent de la brioche," which was absurd because people couldn't even afford bread, so they could never afford this lovely rich bread full of eggs and butter. Crazy! I'm just going to let this rise for a couple of hours in a warm place until it's double, even triple in volume. And if you want to, you can make it the night before and put it in the fridge, and overnight it will rise very slowly and be ready to work with the next morning. Slice a baguette. It doesn't have to be the freshest for toast, maybe left over from last night's dinner. Drop the slices in an extra wide toaster, and when they pop, fish them out with tongs. Et voila! Crisp little 2-bite toasts to smear with butter and jam. There are lots of reasons to make brioche at least once in your life, and this is one of them. It will restore your faith in the universe to see dough rise up so high, so magical. And now, because I'm such a big meanie, I'm going to punch it down. Cut it in 3. Roll each one out into a long tress. To make it a very fun shape, I'm going to braid it before I put it in the loaf pan. And just butter and flour the pan so it doesn't stick. And there it is, all snug in its little bed. Now I'm just going to let it rise again until it comes up to the top of the pan in nice big humps. And then paint the top with an egg and milk wash so it comes out of the oven with a really glossy top. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's worth every minute. When you make your own brioche, you just feel so proud. A little bit of butter. Worth every minute. When I lived in Burgundy, I became addicted to the regional specialty spice bread for breakfast. The warm, spicy aromas alone make me swoon. I love a French breakfast, especially on Sunday, because then I can savor every bite. Especially when I have a buttery, rich brioche or a sticky-topped gingerbread flavored with anise, orange, and honey called spice bread. It's a specialty of Burgundy where I used to live, and I ate loads of it. It starts with wet ingredients in a saucepan. All together, they come to a boil. First, honey. Now this is where it differs from gingerbread in the English tradition. Honey instead of molasses. And you want a nice dark honey, like buckwheat or chestnut, really strongly flavored. And to layer up the sweet tastes, a bit of brown sugar too. Gives nice richness. And then milk. This is another difference from the English spice breads, which use water. I need to put some butter in. Now I'm bringing that all to a boil while I get my dry ingredients together. Flour, just regular all-purpose flour. And a pinch of salt, baking powder to make it rise. Now for the fun part, the spices. I have a lot because I want to mix my own. First cinnamon, then ginger, and a classic flavor in spice bread is anise seed. I don't want to pulverize them, but I'm just going to give them a quick crush in the mortar and pestle so that their flavors are released. Now for some exotic things. A bit of coriander. Next spice, cardamom. It smells very floral. And finally, a pinch of nutmeg and a pinch of cloves. All these spices in here make the flour smell good. I like to stick my nose in every process. And a little bit of orange zest, and that's classic too in Burgundian spice bread. So now I'm going to make a well, crack in an egg. Traditional recipes use sometimes just egg yolk or no egg at all. I like to use an egg because once I tried it without one and I created a lovely brick. So now all these hot ingredients can go right in on top, but slowly. I mix it all in fast and gradually draw the flour in. It smells incredible. It's going to be even better while it's baking. The pan is buttered and floured so it won't stick. It's a very smooth batter, like a cake. And it's quite pale too. That's the honey. Just smooth out the top so it's nice and even. Then I'm going to bake it until it rises up and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Just like the first time you go to a French cheese shop, the variety in a French pastry shop can be daunting too. The easiest way to handle it is simply to get one of everything. Here are a few good ones. Croissants are made of a buttery, flaky pastry, and if they're well made, they will be light when you pick them up, crisp and flaky, and made of real butter. Pain au chocolat are shaped like mini boxing gloves. They're exactly like croissant, only with a stick of dark chocolate running right through the center. Pain au raisin are spirals of brioche dough stuffed with pastry cream and rum-soaked raisins. And palmiers are palm leaf-shaped pastries made of sugared, double-rolled sliced puff pastry. Oh, and don't forget the paper. You can't have a leisurely Sunday French breakfast without that. Lovely pale golden color, a great taste of anise and orange. This would be perfect with a cup of tea. All countries make fruit preserves, but each has a different favorite. Strawberry is probably our standard, but for the French, it's apricot. When I lived in Paris, I did become one of those people who thought caffeine was a food group at breakfast. But not on Sundays. Then I splashed out, I got everything. In Burgundy, I got spice bread. In Paris, I got brioche. And I loved it when it had apricot preserve. It's a sunshiny, egg yolk colored preserve of apricots, fresh stewed in sugar. It starts with apricots, which are so cheery to look at in the morning. They're a bit like peaches, only a bit smaller, more egg-shaped, and they've got this lovely pink blush on them. Very pretty. The apricots get stewed in syrup. I've got a pot of sugar, and I'm going to pour some water over top just to dissolve it, and then heat it up to make sure it really disappears in the water. And I'll get my fruit ready. I'm just cutting them in half because I like nice big chunks of fruit, full fruit taste. Sugar and water is dissolving. I want to bring it just to a boil so that I make sure it's completely liquid. I used to think jam was such a big production, I never did it. But it's so easy and it's really worth doing now and again because it has such fresh fruit flavor, really different from anything that's sat on the shelf for ages. And notice I didn't peel these because the color that the skin gives is amazing. And just a squirt of lemon. It always helps keep things nice and fresh tasting. Okay, now for some fun. You think you should throw away all those pits, mais non. Reserve a few of them, say about 4, because there's a surprise inside. You just need a hammer, and you crack into them, and inside is this little thing that's like an almond. And if you taste it, it's this huge taste of almond extract, which is really good in the apricot jam. You don't want too much, though. So just about 4 pips. It's amazing, the taste. I'm chopping them quite fine because you don't want to run into a whole one. So that's going to stew together with the almond flavor, infusing all through it until it turns to jam. Now at the beginning, white foam starts rising to the surface. And now that will cloud your jam, so you want to skim it off. That's lovely, thick and jammy, and a beautiful burnt orange color with bright fruit in it. And it's ready to put in my jars. Now it's really hot, so pick up a jar with a towel. Don't burn yourself. You can see all those little bits of almond flecked throughout. See those big chunks of fruit? I'm not putting a lid on that one. I should wait till it's cool, but I'm not. Nice toasted brioche, my favorite toast. The best thing is it's not jammy, it tastes like fruit. Perfect for breakfast. The first time I went to France, I remember expecting to see everyone drinking café au lait out of those pretty little breakfast bowls. That's not the way it is at all. They don't even call it café au lait, they call it café crème. It's thick black coffee on the bottom of a mug with foamy milk on top. And that's what everybody I know has for breakfast. I have an idea for yogurt and fruit with a very special twist. One of the things I loved about eating in France is that I would order a certain dish and then something extraordinary would arrive that I totally didn't expect. Even something as simple as breakfast cereal could be magical. I'm making one of the best I ever had. Fruit mixed in a bowl with creamy yogurt on top and then maple almond crunch sprinkled over. First, you need a bowl that makes you happy. And in it you put mixed fruit. Got raspberries and blueberries. And some banana. I like to chop it up nice and small like the berries. On top of my fruit goes creamy yogurt, but not yet. First, I'm going to make a maple almond praline. It's really easy. It starts with maple syrup, which I'm going to boil down to half so it will caramelize. Now this is very thick. I'm going to throw in a handful of nuts, stir them to coat, and then quickly pour them onto parchment. And in a few minutes that will be rock hard and I can chop it up into candy. So often when I was in France, I would go to people's houses and halfway through dinner, they'd come running out to the dining room and say, "You're Canadian? What do you do with this?" And they'd have a huge tub of maple syrup that some other Canadian before me had brought them as a present, and they never knew what to do with it. So tell all your French friends this. Who says you can't have candy for breakfast? I have my fruit in a bowl. Next, creamy yogurt spooned on top. Now my praline chunks sprinkled over. So much better than granola. And finally, a bit of orange zest. That ruins me for breakfast cereal for good. Rich, buttery brioche with a soft crumb and a golden crust. Spice bread with 4-spice, honey, anise, and orange. Homemade apricot preserve bursting with the taste of sunshine. Café crème, strong hot coffee with a frothy milky top. And fresh fruit with yogurt, orange zest, and maple almond crunch. You can wake up to breakfast in Paris wherever you are.